Welcome back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Marina, and it's just me this week. Today, I'm talking about perseverance and the book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. So we've talked a lot on this podcast and on gen20.com about books to read in your 20s and all of the things we go through in our 20s. And I've said it before, your 20s are freaking hard. But you know what? I hate to say it, life is challenging overall. Like, it will continue to be challenging. And recently I listened to the audiobook by Angela Duckworth. I listened to Grit, and the full title, let me pull up my tabs, is called, oh my goodness. So the full title is called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Angela Duckworth. And I highly recommend listening to it because it's easy to, for me at least, it's easy to put a book down if I'm like not ready to receive the information. But when you're trapped in a car listening to the audio, it's a lot easier to absorb. And Angela Duckworth has a lovely speaking voice. So why am I talking so much about this? Let me tell you about the first time I learned the word perseverance. Some ex-NFL player came to my elementary school, maybe my middle school, I was very young, and talked about perseverance. And the only thing I remember from that talk was that I had no idea what perseverance meant. It just, like, that talk went right over my head. I did not connect. And so the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines perseverance as the continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. And dang, is that what I needed to hear about as I turned 32 this year. Life is full of changes and challenges, and sometimes it just feels so impossible. But when I was listening to this book, I realized everything I've done to this point has been me pursuing and persevering with my goals into a happy, fulfilling life, right? That's beautiful. But what I never gave myself credit for was all the times I fell down and got back up and kept trying. I so often would diminish what I did. When I started my business, a lot of friends and family said, "Oh, you're so brave." And I thought, I'm not brave. This is just like my last choice because I can't get I can't think about applying to more jobs. And I always wanted to be my own boss. How am I going to do it? What am I going to do it? I was very much seeing my life in a pessimistic, glass empty point of view. But after listening to this audiobook and really thinking about what it meant to be gritty, to get my hands dirty, to dig in, even though it's so hard sometimes, I realized, oh, I've just been persevering. That's what I'm doing. So I'm here to talk to you about what we're going to do with this information. Some quotes from this book that I really want to share are, as much as talent counts, effort counts twice. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for how much we try to do and how much we keep trying. Too often we are given this narrative that you need to be the best, you need to be an expert. And that's really intimidating for me. I think, pretty smart. I work very hard, and I have the personality where I will never think I'm an expert in things, even though I might be. And so, as talented as you or I may be, what matters more is the effort we're putting into it, how much we are excited about an idea to the point where we aren't going to give up on it. Enthusiasm is contagious, right? It's really fun to get excited about something. It's really fun to get fired up by an idea. When things get hard or aren't panning out the way you think they will, it's harder to be enthusiastic about that idea. It's easier to want to just give up and try something new. I think a lot of that comes from the way society is kind of training us to be expecting quick, not necessarily easy, but like quick results, immediate satisfaction, or immediate responses. And a lot of things just take time. Endurance. We need to focus on endurance. I'm not a runner. You might not be either, but we have to endure. And one thing I really took away from this book was the thought that it's that old quote, like, fall down 7 times, get up 8. But this thought that it's a lifelong game, not a game. It's a lifelong process of figuring out what you want, how you can be your best self, how you can get to where you want to be, and how you can continue learning. And that has a lot to do with writing too. I'm always going to bring it back to writing. But writing is a long game. Writing is about perseverance. Most people who write for themselves, which is beautiful. And most of the people who write for the intention of publishing won't be published, or they won't be published in the traditional sense that they envisioned. That doesn't take away any of the beauty of the writing. It doesn't take away any of the effort of the writing. It just means that the outcome is maybe not what you're expecting. And that's really hard for me to admit because I want to be traditionally published and I have all these ideas about what my future will look like. But one thing I've learned in the last 12 years of adulthood, we'll say I became an adult at 20, that's maybe not true, but in the last 12 years, I've worked so hard to try to figure out who I am, what I wanted. And when I picked one thing and it didn't work out, a lot of it was so hard to realize, oh, I hate this career, I hate this job, I hate this city, or I'm not happy in this city. But through pivoting, my favorite word, through pivoting and getting curious and trying things with less judgment, I realized what it takes for me to be happy, what it means for me to be happy, and what success looks like. And success and happiness, I think, are more related than money and happiness. I was briefly interrupted from my passionate diatribe by the UPS delivering toilet paper to my house. So that's 2 podcasts now that I have been interrupted by deliveries. So I have kind of lost where I was going here, but basically wanting to talk about perseverance and we've talked so much about failure on this podcast. Nicole and I talk about it all the time. She's actually someone who helped me embrace failing because I was so afraid of it for so long. And she helped me realize it's not a bad thing. It's a learning opportunity. It's growth. Fail faster, fail better, fail fun. I don't know if maybe we'll start talking about failing fun, but what I've realized in the last 2 years of my 30s and maybe the last 10 years after reflecting on my 20s is that all of the things I've tried that maybe didn't work out how I thought they would or worked out and I didn't like them like I thought I would got me to where I am now. And that can't be a failure because I'm really proud of myself right now. I'm really proud of how hard I've worked to take care of myself emotionally and physically, how hard I work to take care of my friends and family and my relationships with them. And it's just life. That's something I take myself so seriously sometimes, and I have to remind myself, it's just life. Let's get through it. Let's try. Let's fail together. Let's grow. That is what perseverance is, and that is how you will make it through your 20s. If you're having a hard time, if you're feeling stressed because you haven't met the goalposts that you've thought about, I know for myself, when I was in college, I thought, oh, I'll be married and with kids by the time I'm 28. I'll definitely be married. I'll definitely have a house by the time I'm 30. Spoiler alert, I don't have those things. I mean, I have an apartment. I live here in my apartment and I pay my rent, but the timelines we set for ourselves when we're younger are not always adequate. They are not always accounting for the life that we're living. And that's okay. It's okay to shift gears, to change your perspective, to change what's important to you. It's okay to learn so much about yourself that your goals overall change. You can change careers, you can change partnerships. It's all okay. But what's important is staying true to yourself and not doing anything for anyone else, but going after what you want. This has become a very wishy-washy narrative, but basically, I'm trying to tell you that in order to grow, you got to persevere. You got to push through the soil, let yourself get watered, find some sunlight, get outside, maybe just become a houseplant. That's what I'm trying to do. But highly recommend listening to Angela Duckworth's book, Grit, and or reading it if you like to read and take notes. But I just found the audio version so helpful. And I hope that you give yourself some grace if you're going through a tough time, no matter your age. Our 20s don't have sole exclusivity on challenging times. So all you can do to get out is to get through. The only way out is through. And you can persevere, and it's all going to be okay. This has been another episode of the Gen 20 podcast. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating and review, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you like this new format, let us know. We're switching things up for season 5, and we'd love to hear from you. So feel free to email us, DM us on Instagram, text us if you have our numbers. Let us know. And we'll see you next time. Bye.